Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. So I'm back here with Megan today, and today we're going to be going through our top 10 tips for beginner photographers. So we're going to be doing 5 do's and 5 don'ts for all beginner photographers out there, just to give some tips and advice. And then at the end we're going to be answering some questions that Meg popped on her Instagram story. And while talking about Instagram, make sure you follow Meg. Her Instagram will be on the screen just there. So yeah, let's get into it. So for this list, I'm going to go through 5 do's. Megan's going to do 5 don'ts. And to start with, my first do is do make sure that you push yourself out of your comfort zone. And this is by taking opportunities that are offered to you or going out and finding opportunities for yourself. Only by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone are you going to be able to make sure that you find your style and find what you enjoy, find what you like doing. And you never know where that might lead you. I actually started in fashion photography by doing it as a favour for a mate. Literally spent 20 minutes, took half a dozen shots for him that were terrible, to be fair. But from that, I found out more about it. People saw the shots that I'd done, and it led from there to where I am now, sort of 2.5 years later. So definitely take opportunities, push yourself out of your comfort zone, even if it's something that you're not comfortable doing. And in fact, an example of this is Megan used to absolutely hate studio photography.
Wait, I've got a really good story of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I first ever did an studio shoot with Callum, and I got the job. Never shot studio ever, never shot ecom, and I was just like, right, I'm just gonna go and do it.
You have to.
I'm just gonna go and do it, and I did it, and it fucking worked out really well.
Yeah, it's sink or swim. It's by doing that. And funnily enough, my first ecom shoot was for, if I think that it's the same company, yeah, I'll bleep that out. But yeah, my first shoot was with the same company, my first ecom shoot. And again, they asked me if I could do it. I told them that I could. I then went and researched how to do it.
I didn't even know how to set the lights up.
Yeah, I remember I messaged you telling you how to.
I was panicking.
I messaged you telling you how to. But from there, if you look at Megan's feed now, her studio work is her focus, and it's incredible. It's amazing.
Yeah, and a shout out to Molly, because she dragged me into the studio after that. And
good old Molly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my first do. Make sure you push yourself out of your comfort zone and take on new opportunities, because you never know where they might lead.
Yes.
And you?
My first don't is shooting in auto. I know, like, when you're first starting and you first have a camera, you don't really know what photography you want to do. Which is fair enough, you're just like getting used to like where the buttons are, this, that and the other. But when you want to start shooting either landscape or portrait, you want to start either going manual or aperture priority or the other ones. But I always shoot in manual, and I've always shot in manual, because I feel like that's the best place, if you agree, to start.
You can really hone the craft by shooting in manual, because you control every aspect of it.
Yeah, and by that you then, because I'm not gonna lie, when I first started out, it took me a while to learn that f2 was brighter, f16 was darker, and it took me a while. But because I used it on manual, I was constantly scrolling, and it just sinks in.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, that's how you learn about the exposure triangle, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You will only learn about shutter speed, aperture and ISO by shooting in either manual or shutter priority or aperture priority. Anything that's not where the camera does all the work for you.
Definitely. Like, having your white balance in auto is fine. Like, to some aspects. I still have, I think it's now and again when I shoot an event or something, I have to change it to specific. Yeah,
if you're shooting something where you need that consistency. But if you're shooting something that's going to be for Instagram, where no two pictures are going to be the same anyway.
Yeah, and also this isn't to confuse auto focus and manual focus.
No, definitely.
Because there was a guy, right, and he used to be like, oh no, like you got to shoot in manual focus because it's cheating, and I don't know how that's cheating. And it's just quicker. It is quicker, and you don't want to sit there freaking focus. If you've got a client, you don't want to sit there and focus the lens.
I will only tend to use manual focus for filming sometimes, and also if I'm shooting a portrait and I need to make sure that the eyes are perfectly in focus. I'll sometimes use manual focus then. The Sony A7 III is really good for that because as soon as you do manual focus override, it automatically zooms in, so you can really make sure that you get that focus exactly where you want it. But I use autofocus 95% of the time.
The only time I ever use manual is when I'm doing a beauty shoot. I'm in the studio.
Yeah.
That's the only time. Beauty shoot in the studio. That's the only time I use manual.
There's with autofocus and manual focus. There's no right and wrong. It's you use the different ones at different times. So don't worry about autofocus and manual focus. Getting out of shooting in auto mode is far more important. That will make a difference to how you understand photography, far more than using autofocus and manual focus.
And that's the difference between someone taking the photo and a photographer.
Yeah.
Because anyone can get a camera, put it on auto, and go out and take photos.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've said, that's how you learn the craft. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So next up for me is focus on learning and practicing photography rather than worrying about gear. I know that it's an age-old debate as to whether gear is important or not. Yes, gear is important. It is. There's no taking away from that. But the expression "all the gear, no idea" is a cliche, but it's completely true. You can have the most expensive camera, you can have the best glass, but if you don't know how to use it, it's irrelevant. Exactly. Like Megan had just mentioned in the last point, is anybody can just press a button and take a photo. But if you spend enough time practicing, and that can be practicing on anything, it can be...
It's your relationship with your camera.
Exactly. The more that you practice, the more that things will become second nature. You'll understand how your camera works. You'll understand how you work with the camera, how you feel comfortable, and also learning. The biggest teacher that I've had, because I've not studied film, I've not studied photography, I've not done any courses, anything like that. My biggest teacher is YouTube.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
I'm self-taught. YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
There is no shame in going on YouTube. For example, with this YouTube channel, when I wanted to know about filming and editing and using Premiere Pro and how to do transitions, all of that information I got from YouTube. I spend hours watching YouTube, all about different photography skills, different ideas. It's a phenomenal teacher. But also there are books, there are magazines, there's at least like half a dozen monthly magazines, and they've all got sections in them that gives you hints and tips, and they come with, some of them come with discs where you can download sort of like Photoshop actions or Lightroom presets and learn how to use them, and they give you the raw files and they show you in the magazine how to edit it, things like that. Spending your time learning and spending your time practicing is far more important than worrying about what camera you've got, because I've seen phenomenal pictures taken on very cheap cameras, phenomenal pictures taken on phones when you know how to use your phone, because most phones you can use the camera manually as well, and I've seen terrible pictures taken with Canon 1DX Mark IIs.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely focus on learning the craft, learning how to use the camera that you've got, rather than worrying about what your next camera's going to be or your next camera's going to be. Because the thing about cameras as well is they get outdated so quickly. I bought my A7 III when it first came out, and it's already 2 years old. There's been the A7R4, the A7 IV is due to come out. They're still looking at the A7S III. And as soon as you get a camera, within 12 to 18 months it's going to be out of date. Don't worry about that, don't panic about that. If you always wanted to have the latest gear or the next most expensive camera from the one that you've got, or the next most expensive lens, anything like that,
constantly changing your gear.
You'll constantly change your gear, which means that you can't get comfortable with it, because every time you change it's going to be different, and it's going to cost you an absolute fortune.
Yes.
So unless you're booking £1,000 worth of jobs every day, don't do it.
Yeah. But following on from that, do you still have your first camera?
I don't still have my first camera, but only because it broke. So my first camera was a Nikon 3100, and I got it second hand for I think 220 quid with a kit lens, and that camera and kit lens shot two of my favourite weddings ever. Ever. And that that camera and kit lens cost less than any lens that I've got now. Cost a hell of a lot less than this camera. But that camera did me for probably 6 months to a year, maybe even a bit more than that. So I went, my camera history went Nikon D30-100. Then from there I went to the D30-200, so not a massive upgrade, it was just the newer version of that because the D30-100 was already quite old when I got it and I got it second hand. From there I went to 50-200, 50-300, 70-100, 70-200, then switched to Canon.
Wow.
But I've been taking photos for 10 years.
Yeah.
So this is over a period of time. And also as well, the A7 III is the first brand new camera that I ever bought. I've always bought second hand. I switched to Canon, shot on Canon for probably 4 years.
That was when I first ever met you.
Yeah, I was shooting with a 5D3 and a 6D. And then switched to Sony 2 years ago, and I've not had any concerns about switching cameras ever since. So.
I've still got mine.
What was yours?
700, Canon 700.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It doesn't work. Well, I say it doesn't work. I've not tried it since I've got my new camera, but looking back now, I only bought that camera to take when I went on holiday just to take photos. I never planned on this happening.
Well, when I was going through all them Nikon cameras, that was because I was always thinking, I'll get a better camera, I'm going to get better images. Get a better camera, I'm going to get better images. Didn't work like that. I got better images from shooting constantly.
It'd be really
from learning constantly.
It'd be really good to do a video of us using our old cameras.
Coming soon.
And seeing what.
Coming soon. I guarantee in the next couple of months we'll do that 100%.
Yeah, I will definitely buy. I don't know if mine will still work, but I'll definitely buy another.
I'll either buy one or I'll find someone that's got one and ask if I can borrow it. But yeah, so watch out for that video coming soon, definitely.
That's definitely a good idea.
So yeah, my second do is concentrate on learning the craft, learning your camera, rather than worrying about what camera you've got.
Yes. My second don't is don't take criticism too harshly. Don't take it to heart.
Yeah.
Don't take criticism to heart. So when I first started, I think everyone's like it though. They're very, very protective of the work. Because it's your baby.
Absolutely.
Your work is your baby.
Absolutely.
And that's like someone saying something's wrong with your baby.
Yeah.
Maybe not that.
It's like someone criticising your kids.
Yeah, but you won't learn unless you're never gonna grow as a creative, as an artist, if you don't take the criticism and work on it.
Yeah.
It took me. It takes people a while. It took me a while to be like, all right, they're not being funny with me. They actually want to help me and they want to see me improve. So I had a sit down with a friend yesterday who's just starting out in photography, and I was not sitting there and be like, this is wrong with your work, this is wrong with your work, this is wrong with your work.
That's a nice conversation.
It's a really good conversation. I was just like, this is my opinion. You can even take this opinion and absorb it. Consider it and work on it, or you can take it and leave it. I don't really. Yeah. I'm not going to lose sleep on it. Neither should you. To be fair.
That's the thing it's as long as the criticism is constructive criticism, and it's coming from a good place, it's invaluable. Again, same as you. It took me a long time to learn that, and I can be quite a defensive person. So whenever anybody came to me with literally the slightest criticism, and in a constructive way, I still really took it to heart.
Yeah.
It upset me at times, it made me angry at times, and it was literally like a light switch. Somebody gave me some constructive criticism on one of my photos. I then went back, took that on board and edited it again just to see what it would look like, realised the difference it made, realised that them telling me that had no benefit to them whatsoever. It was only going to benefit me. And from then on, I realised I can recognise when it's coming from a good place and when it's not. And when it is coming from a good place, it's something that I always take on board. And especially with video as well. So because I'm very, very new to video, I don't have a huge amount of a huge skill set in terms of video. So I'm always looking for feedback and always asking for feedback and asking people if they'll watch my videos and give me some critique. And a huge shout out to Mark, so MC, who I mentioned in the 20 YouTube channels to watch in 2020 video. He has given me some amazing feedback and some really good advice and some tips and some things where I could have done something better. And all of that, we had a conversation for a good couple of hours a couple of weeks back, and that meant the world to me that he'd taken time out to give me this help, and taking that stuff on board has already started paying dividends for me. So yeah, I completely agree.
But
with
even
that.
in like our group, like I don't know if you're aware, we're in like a
We've got a group
squad.
chat.
It's called AIMS. These are little
Andy is Megan and Sophia.
Yeah, which also goes in age order.
It does
We
go in
figured
age
out
order as
after
well.
That. So
Yeah.
we will post this like a couple of photos in there, and we'll be like, what's your favourite photo, or how can I improve on this? Because I'm quite, when it comes to my studio work, I'm not gonna say I'm the only person that does studio in our group. I'm only the only one that's focused on it. Yeah. But I still want feedback because you'll see things that I don't see. I see
Absolutely.
things that you don't see.
Absolutely. Fresh eyes on something always helps. And having a good circle of people around you is massive.
Yeah, supportive.
In our group chat, we can ask each other for help and advice about anything, not just photography. But
life.
Life in general.
Advice.
But specific to photography, exactly like Meg said, we'll post photos in there. We'll be like, even if it's just the case of the most common one is probably where we'll put exactly we'll put a load of images on and say which one is your favourite, which one should we put as the cover photo, so that's the one that appears on your feed on Instagram.
Yeah.
And literally just things like that. If you put 4 photos into the group chat and all 3 of these guys say the same one, it makes you look at that one and think, okay, so what makes that better than the rest? What makes that stand out? Is it composition? Is it the editing?
But we'll always say that, like, I love that one because the combo and the lighting's sick.
And you can take that on board and then you can remember that for next time.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a good one.
So yeah.
I love our little group.
I love our group.
Shout out to Sophia and his video coming soon.
We've been saying coming soon.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, so yeah, don't take criticism to heart.
Don't take it to heart.
So my next do is kind of leading on from what we've just been talking about not taking criticism to heart, is learn from your mistakes. And it's a lot easier said than done. But in photography, like with any either hobby or job or skill, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make loads of them.
I've got a big one.
Go on.
Backing up your work. Oh my god.
Yep.
I've lost. Even now, I just can't do it. It's just, I think it's just.
Do you know what you need to do? Learn from that mistake.
I've had a hard drive break on me, and it was soul destroying. I must have cried for about 4 days. Lost all my work, and then I was like, I'm not going to do photography anymore. Sat down, screwed my head back on, and was like, right, let's start fresh.
See,
and learn from that mistake.
I learned from that mistake because I had a hard drive go corrupted a couple of years ago, and now in my iMac at home, I constantly have 2 hard drives plugged in. So as soon as I copy something to one, it automatically copies to the other one as well. So that way I know that I've got everything saved on 2 hard drives. Also as well, I never delete the files from the SD card until the work is completed. So I've got loads of SD cards. So until work is completed, I know that I've got it in 3 different places. I've got it on the original SD card and I've got it on 2 separate hard drives. So the chances of all 3 of those going wrong is minimal.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just on your SD card, or if it's just on one hard drive and you've wiped your SD card to use it again, you do put yourself at risk. But that's just one mistake. There are hundreds and thousands that you'll make. Mistakes like if you're doing a paid job and you don't make sure that you get paid before you give them the images. Yes. That's a mistake that you only make once. Definitely.
Definitely.
That's a mistake you want to make once.
And you want to make sure your terms and conditions in your invoices.
Yeah, make sure
and
your
contracts.
invoices and contracts are watertight.
Yes.
Always check your wording. Always get somebody else to check them.
Always have your own back. Always stick up for yourself. Don't let anyone, just because it's a bigger brand doesn't mean that you owe them anything.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, learn from your mistakes, accept them, get upset about them, get angry about them.
Cry for 4 days.
Not necessarily for 4 days, but if that's how you're gonna learn, whatever you do, don't let it fester. Don't let it become something that you're constantly worried about.
Because if it's happened, it's meant to happen, and you're only gonna grow from it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And the thing is, if you keep going and keep going and keep going and don't make any mistakes, when you do then make a mistake, all of a sudden it seems like it's the end of the world. Whereas if you appreciate that you are going to make mistakes, and when you do make a mistake, you go, right, I did that wrong, or that went wrong, I won't do it again, I'll move on from it. It's a much better place to be in, rather than letting every tiny little thing that goes wrong affect you, because if you do that, you're never going to be in a positive place, and you're never going to keep that positive passion for photography. You're never going to
appreciate the positive side, because
absolutely
the universe is throwing you a lesson.
Learn from it.
I'd so weird of them.
Yeah, photography will teach you a lot of lessons. Yeah. There's a lot that can go wrong, but when it does, learn from it, move past it, and then grow in the future.
Yeah. So my third don't is work for free. Now there's a very, 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 very fine line between working for free and collaborating. So my definition of working for free is
where somebody will message you.
When someone messages you, using you to get free content. So, for example, let's get an example going here. I'm not spilling any tea. I'm giving it like
coffee.
Coffee or hot chocolate. If I came to Andrew and said, I don't know Andrew, I said, Andrew, please will you? He's never shot a wedding before. Andrew, will you shoot my wedding for free? Yeah. That's working for free, because this person isn't giving you anything.
Yeah. Whereas if I said, right, I've never shot a wedding, I want to shoot a wedding, I want to be able to see what that's like, I want to work at it. And if I then go to Megan and say, I know that you're getting married, I've not shot a wedding before, but I'm really interested in doing it. This is other work that I've done. I'd be interested in doing that, and because I've never done one before, because you'd be taking a chance on me, I'd be willing to do that for free.
Yeah.
That way, I'm benefiting from it, because I'm getting the experience of shooting a wedding that I've not done before, something that I want to do, and adding another string to my bow in terms of being able to look at potentially offering that if I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And Megan's benefiting from it because she's getting wedding photography for free. Both people are benefiting from it.
I think if we'll do a fashion example as well, and fashion photography. If a model that's just starting out, and you're just starting out, but you do have a little bit of a portfolio, and they're coming up to you like, will you shoot my portfolio for free? At this point you need to think, right, I've got this portfolio, I don't necessarily need this new model who hasn't got any experience in modelling, isn't going to give me any tips, isn't going to give me any new moves, poses or anything. Yeah. It's just going to be basic. That's working for free. Whereas if I was, let's do an example with Molly. Molly's a model, professional model.
Signed agency model, professional, yeah.
And she came up to you, like, you've just recently done a collaboration through me.
Yeah.
So, and that's collaborating because you don't have Molly in your on your books.
Yeah, well, I mean, the video, and I'll link it up here somewhere, or in the description.
Yeah.
So the video that I did when I got the 85mm lens for the Sony. So I'd got that lens. I wanted to shoot a video talking about that lens and shooting that lens. Me and Molly have not worked together, and we've been wanting to work together for ages.
Yeah.
Molly needed more variety in a portfolio. Mm-hmm. So Molly benefited from it because she got more variety from a portfolio.
So she's not working for free?
Yeah. I benefited from it because I got Molly in my portfolio, and also I got to be able to shoot the video content that I wanted to.
Yes.
And you benefit from it just because you got to spend time with me and Molly.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness though, that is a perfect example of a collaboration. I'm more than happy to do collaborations. I did one 2 weeks ago in New York. I did one this morning for another video for YouTube with Megan. Where everybody benefits from it, that's a collaboration.
Yeah.
Where one person is approaching another person and asking them to do something for free, that's trying to get free content.
I
like
think
you said. And it works the other way as well though. There are professional models that get booked for jobs all the time and will have brand new photographers that don't have a portfolio that go up to them and say, can I shoot you for free? And those models are the models that charge for shoots.
Yeah, they should. And they should. It's literally
Absolutely.
vice versa.
It works the same way both ways. Okay, so that last one was cut a little bit short because the 30-minute timer on Sony's filming ran out. So it stopped very abruptly at the end there. But yeah, just to recap that, working for free and collaborating are two very different things. Try to make sure that if you are going to be doing that it is something where you're also going to benefit as well as the other party.
And one thing that we did say, I don't know if it cut off, but if you're not sure if someone's taking the mic or if it is a collab, just give me a message.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to drop us a message.
Yeah, we're lovely.
We're very nice. But yeah, drop us a message if you've got any questions, anything that you're not sure of at all. Both of us Instagrams are down below, so yeah, just fire a DM across.
Yeah.
So my next do focus on lighting. Now lighting is hugely important. It's the biggest thing that will impact any photo that you take, be that landscape, portrait, sports, events, anything like that. And whether that be using natural light, using on and off camera flash, or using studio lighting, having your lighting correct is going to make a huge difference when it comes to your final image. So for example, if we talk about using natural light, lots of people like to only use natural light. I love using natural light, and I think it gives really, really nice looks to images, especially with portraits. With natural lighting, you need to make sure that you're getting your exposure right. And this goes back to what we were saying about learning your camera, learning about the exposure triangle, and making sure that you get that exposure right in camera, because it's a lot harder to fix lighting at a later point. If you're shooting landscapes, for example, if you've got perfectly exposed ground but an overexposed sky, you're going to really, really struggle to get any detail back into that. Whereas if you've exposed more for the sky and you've got the ground in shadow, it's a lot easier to bring detail out of shadows than it is to add detail into blown out highlights. Same with portraits and skin. So if you've got blown out skin, it's really hard to get any detail and texture back into that. If you've got shadows around the eyes, as soon as you try and bring detail out of that, it brings up something which is, I'm not going to get angry or upset, but if you use the adjustment brush to bring out the shadows in somebody's eyes, they will not look human.
Or even when you shoot in an event.
Yeah.
Do you remember we saw this photo the other day where it was a picture, I don't know if you can remember, if when I've explained it, it was a picture, I'm not going to explain it, but it was like a gig, it was of a DJ.
Yes, yeah.
It was
so basically somebody had used the adjustment brush to try and make up for the fact that the DJ was in shadow because it had been underexposed, and it had not been done subtly, shall we say.
You could see like a haze around the head.
Yeah, so you've got to be very careful to try and get that exposure right first time, because trying to fix it afterwards can look either unnatural, or it can make the image look false, or it can just look bad. Don't get me wrong, there are things that you can fix in post, as long as you're close enough to a correct exposure. You're at least giving yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah, because we've had photos where they've been underexposed.
Absolutely, yeah. I've had underexposed photos, I've had overexposed photos. But one thing that I would say is, going back to what I just mentioned, which is it's a lot easier to fix an underexposed photo than an overexposed photo. Speaking of overexposing, when it comes to using on and off camera flash, I cannot emphasise enough how difficult it is to master that without just using practice and trial and error. Knowing where to position those lights, knowing how much power to use with those lights, and how to expose correctly for those lights is a skill in itself. And working on that will make you, it will put you in a position, to be able to create really striking images that look natural or unnatural, depending on the look that it is that you're going for. But being able to use those lights, knowing when to use it on camera, knowing when to use it off camera, as I mentioned, where to position it, how much power to use, how to expose for it, that all comes through trial and error. There's no magic formula. There's no, oh well, if you position your light here and set it to this power, then it'll be fine, because obviously your ambient lighting is going to change.
Yeah,
that.
there's no set way.
There's not, no. And again, this goes back to what we were saying about learning, using YouTube, using magazines, trial and error, and only by doing that will you understand, okay, so now I know how this light works. I know that if I start with it here and use that as a base and then manoeuvre from that, I'm at least giving myself a good starting point. But none of that comes without practice.
And time of day. If you shoot off camera flash, make sure you know in the time of day, your peak time of day is going to be like, well, when your sun's the highest, so probably like 10, 12, 1ish.
Yeah, so if you're using on or off camera flash, you're less likely to want to shoot at golden hour, in my opinion. That may not be everybody's opinion, but in my opinion, golden hour in the morning, golden hour at night are best for natural light, in my opinion. Whereas when the sun's at its highest, that's when you can use.
It's going to here.
Yeah.
So your shadows are going to be under your
exactly,
eyes.
and that's when you can use artificial light to basically cover that.
Shadows, yeah.
When it comes to studio lighting.
It's similar, but it depends what you're shooting. So, for example, if you're shooting a beauty shoot and you need to focus on the makeup, so you're going to have your main light, which is more than likely going to be a beauty dish, and then you're going to have filler lights, which is then going to fill the shadows. That's why it's called a filler light, from your main light. So your main light could be here, but it could be here, depending on where you're shooting and where the focus is on the face. You need to make sure that the shadow is filled. So if you have a light here and it's stronger than the light here, you're going to get a Rembrandt lighting. So you've got like a shadow on the nose. That means this light needs to be turned up. Also, it matters for your settings on your camera as well. So there's no setting on your camera. When I'm in the studio, I shoot at 125 a second, and then I think I shoot at like between f11 to f9, just because of what I normally shoot.
Yeah, you're wanting a deeper.
Yeah, you want more. Yeah. So it does depend on what you're shooting, but you just need to learn where your shadows are, where your lights are, and where you want your shadows to be, and where you want your lighting to be, based on what you are shooting.
And again, there's hundreds of videos on studio lighting, on using on and off camera flash, on how to best use natural light. Looking at those videos, reading articles, looking at magazines, and getting out there and actually trying it yourself, that's the only way that you're going to be able to master it.
Yeah.
And once you've mastered it, you will notice the difference. I look at images that I take now and compare them to images that I took 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, before I had a better understanding of lighting. I've still not mastered it at all, and I probably never will. But the understanding of light that I have now compared to then is shown in the results that I can achieve as well.
And also, when you do get the skill, not saying it's the best skill, but once you know the basics and you're looking for a magazine, you can then pinpoint where they have put their light, so you can get a similar effect in your work. So then you can,
once you, especially with studio lighting, once you understand how studio lighting works,
that's how I taught myself.
Exactly, and you can look at an image and go, okay, so what they probably do with that is they probably had a key light here, a fill light here, a softbox there, a beauty dish there, or whatever. Yeah. And once you can look at an image and have an idea of that, that's when you know that you're pretty comfortable with your lighting.
Definitely.
So focus on lighting.
Lighting and shadows.
No pun intended.
Yes. My fourth don't is copy other people's work, which kind of leads on to what we were saying before about editing with the lighting, because I've seen a couple of people recently where they've seen a photographer, again I'm not going to name drop, they've seen photographers' work and they're like, they aspire to be like that photographer, if not that photographer. They aspire to be where they are in their position of work, which is sometimes they come across false, because it's very easy to lie on social media.
Yeah, I think with this
it's a very wide subject to cover in terms of copying people's lifestyles to get to that point of where they are, and copying their editing style, their shooting style to get to that point where they are. Just because
I think there's nothing wrong at all with aspiring to be in a position that somebody else is in at all. You always want inspiration. We've both got inspiration. We've both got people that we aspire to and people who influence us. But there's a difference between somebody influencing you and you just trying to produce a carbon copy of what they do.
Because then you're not an artist. You're a copier. An artist is creating your own perception of art. And if you're just being the sheep and following the shepherd and the flock and just being someone's shadow,
you're never going to stand out.
You're never gonna make a brand for yourself. You're never gonna get that own unique style for yourself, which I think I'm still learning my own style. I think I'm just getting my foot down of where I want my style to be.
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
You're the same.
No, yeah. Absolutely.
But I know I have people who I look up to, but I know what my style is. I still know not how to get to where they are, but I still know like the paths and like things you have to go through to get to that. But you do need, one of the paths is you do need your own style to get to that path. Otherwise, they're going to pick, if you're going to have the same style as someone that's been in the industry 10 years, they're going to pick the person that's been in the industry 10 years, so you got more experience, rather than you're copying their presets and not adjusting. It's just not individuality, it's just copying.
It's like you say, you're not being creative, you're not being an artist. And nobody wants a knockoff. Nobody wants a cheap version of something. But nobody can be it's so cliched, but nobody can be a better version of you than you. Just like nobody else can be a better version of themselves than they can. So take inspiration. Take inspiration in terms of how people use, how people edit, how people use light, how people pose people, how people use colour theory. Take inspiration from that, and take inspiration from everywhere, from people that you know, from people that you don't know, from things that you see on YouTube, from things that you see in magazines, everything around you. It doesn't have to be photography at all. Even one thing that absolutely. One thing that I really take a lot of inspiration from is film and cinema, and I love how different directors and different cinematographers. By the way, Roger Deakins is the greatest cinematographer of all time. But how they use colours and they use tone to set a mood. And apologies for that.
Is it that number again?
Yeah. Sorry about that. But yeah, how cinematographers use colour and tone to set a mood and to set a whole aesthetic.
They even have their own style.
Absolutely.
For example, Baz Luhrmann, you know it, and it's a Baz Luhrmann film.
Yep. Wes Anderson's the same.
Yeah.
And taking inspiration from all different areas and take all of that inspiration together and use that to help you find your own style.
Yeah.
Because nobody else is going to have exactly the same inspirations as you. Nobody else is going to take inspiration from the same place, all of the same places as you, and that's how you can really make your own style.
I think our squad is a very good example of that. When I see a photo, I know Izza's took it. When I see a photo, I know Sophia's took it. When I see a photo, I know you've took it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're continuous with it.
Yeah, and the four of us inspire each other. And we talk about how we inspire each other. We talk about for example, I've recently been doing a lot of work with off-camera flash, and has spoken to me about how I do that and how he can look at incorporating that. But on the flip side, I've spoken to Iz about his use of colour theory, because how he uses colour theory is incredible, and how he uses different colours to really make his images stand out. And we really bounce ideas off of each other. But I won't use Iz's colour theory to make an image that looks like one of his, and he won't use my advice on using off-camera flash to make images that look like mine.
Yeah.
So it's about taking that inspiration, but taking it for yourself, and really
and manipulate it in a way that you want it to come across.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
quite deep, that one.
That was really deep. But I feel like that's a very good.
Yeah, definitely.
One to put out.
So my fifth and final do, and my fifth and final piece of advice for new photographers or beginner photographers or amateur photographers is to keep going. And I know this kind of goes along with learning from mistakes and things, but it's not just about mistakes. Photography is difficult. It's very difficult. It's easy to start, but it's very difficult to make a career from it. It's very difficult to become successful at it and to master it. And there's going to be times along the way where you get fed up, you want to give up, you just want to stop. There might be times where if you are full-time or if you are doing it part-time as a professional, where you're not getting enough jobs, you're not getting bookings, or if you are getting bookings, you're not getting the type of bookings that you want. All I can say is to keep going, because there's been a lot of times when I felt like that. And if I'd given up, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now. Definitely. And if I give up now, I won't be in the position that I know that I'm going to be in 12 months from now, or 18 months from now, 24 months from now.
That's exciting.
Exactly.
It's really exciting.
And it's easy to, all of the things that we've spoken about, it's easy to let constructive criticism get to you. It's easy to not be able to master something straight away, like lighting or using your camera in manual mode. It's easy to give up.
I can't stress how much it will come, and you
100%.
do have to put the work in. You
have to put the work in, and also it goes back to what I was saying about having a circle of people around you.
Yeah.
If you've got a support network around you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be other photographers, it can just be friends, family, partners, parents, absolutely. If you've got people around you that will support you, even if you're not wanting to make it a career, even if you're just wanting to get better at photography as a hobby or something that you just enjoy, something that you've got a passion for, just don't give up, because every single time that you take your camera out and take a photo, you're learning. Yeah. Every single time, because the more you do something, as we've already mentioned, the more you do something, the more comfortable you get. The more comfortable that you get, the more that you're going to be able to push yourself. And once you've learned one thing, learn something new, learn something new, learn something new. Again, going back to constantly learning, constantly practicing. And that's how you can keep that passion. But also, it sounds like this is a contradiction to that, but don't be afraid to take time out.
I'm going to follow from that in a second, yeah.
Sometimes you just need to hit that reset button to take some time. I numerous times over the past sort of year to 18 months have put my camera down for a couple of days or a week, or last year I put it down for, I didn't shoot or edit for 10 days, and just hit that reset button, came back to it. When I came back to it, I was refreshed, I was energized, and I was excited to I was excited to shoot again. So don't be afraid to do that, but just make sure that if you do that you get back on it. And get back to it. So just, it sounds cliche again, but just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Following on from that, my final don't have negative routine. I can't stress this enough. Everyone has different routines. My personal routine is I'll get up at 8 in the morning, have my breakfast, and then depending on what I've got that day, whether that's shooting, uni, medical appointments, I always prioritise in the day what I have to do. So yesterday, for example, I had to go to uni for a couple of hours. That was my main priority. So I went to uni, did that, and then I had a meet to meet up with a friend for go for food, and then in between that time I took the time to go and meet another friend to sit down, give him some advice, this, that and the other. But that wasn't my priority. So if my main priority went overtime, I would then say to him, look, it didn't work out, let's do another day. Went to food, and then I had a medical appointment that night, and then woke up refreshed. I can't stress how much sleep is a big one. I'm real guilty for it. I do it sometimes where I don't go to sleep till like 2 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's just because I can't sleep. It's not because I'm sat there editing, because there's going to be a point where, like you said, people say keep going, but people take that in the wrong way. People think it's constant every day. You don't have to do that.
No.
You literally don't. And plus it's going to have a negative effect and you will burn out.
But yeah, burnout is a real thing. And me personally, I've got a sleeping pattern that's different to most people in that I pretty much only ever have 4 hours sleep. I've done it for years and years, since way before photography. I've never had a lot of sleep. But then what I will do is, once maybe every 10 days to 2 weeks, I will take a day where I know that I can have 10, 11 hours sleep, and then I'm refreshed, and then I start again.
Yeah.
But that's different. My partner, for example, she has to have 8 hours sleep. She doesn't have 8 hours sleep, she's no use to anybody. She can't function without her 8 hours sleep. And because of that, that's her routine. She has at least 8 hours sleep. With my routine, because I know that I don't need more than 4 hours sleep, I will normally have 4 hours sleep, maybe 5. If I have 3 hours sleep, that has an impact.
Yeah.
And because of that, because I know my limitations, I work to that. With me, I hold my hands up. I'm the least organised person in the world, and that's difficult because I have a 31-hour-a-week job. I also have photography, which I do the same, if not more, hours a week. I'm also getting married this year, and I've got a dog. So I have to walk a dog, I have to go to work, I have to go to work with photography, I have to spend time planning my wedding, spend time actually seeing my fiance as well, seeing family, seeing friends. I have a lot to cram into my days, and I've got to a position where I can do that because of my routine. If I needed 8 hours sleep a day, one of those things would have to take a hit. It would have to.
But I think it comes in time. Like, I've just been diagnosed with a health condition, and having a routine now has made me, for example, if I don't get 7 hours sleep, I will be ill the next day. I won't be able to work, and that will impact on my job. So I won't be able to go to uni, won't be able to go to work, won't be able to earn my living because my work is photography, and it sucks when I can't look at a camera, I can't be near light all day because of my health condition. But like your routine's different to mine. Like, I have to have that sleep. You might not have to have that much sleep, so you've then got a little bit more time. But it doesn't make you a better artist.
That doesn't mean that I'm working harder.
Exactly,
at
not
all.
a chance.
Doesn't mean that I'm working harder whatsoever.
Because we're both working hard on our own work.
Know your limitations.
Health.
I sometimes get burnt out, and that's automatic because of my lifestyle. I'm always going to get burnt out, and that's why, like I say, I allow myself time to have a lie-in until 10:30 in the morning, and then get up and spend an hour just chilled out before I do anything, because that time there is time that I've gained over the previous 10 days by not going to sleep until 3 or 4 in the morning. But again, that doesn't mean that every so often I don't go to bed at 10, 11 o'clock, and it doesn't mean that because of that I work harder than anybody else, because there's a lot of people that work a lot harder than me. I'm not afraid to admit that whatsoever. There are people that will sleep 10 hours a night that work harder than me. And it's just about knowing your limitations, and then the time that you have got, putting that to best use. And that doesn't mean about photography. That means about everything in your life. Like what Meg was saying about priorities. You need to make sure that you have things prioritised. And if at the moment photography isn't that number one priority, that's absolutely fine.
Make it a hobby.
That's absolutely fine. Even if you're doing it professionally, if you're doing paid jobs but it's not your main job, if your main job is your priority, there's nothing wrong with having photography as your second priority. As long as you have those things in order and you make time efficiently for all of them, it doesn't matter whether you have 2 hours sleep or 12 hours sleep. It doesn't matter whether you work 1 day a week or 7 days a week. What's right for you isn't what's right for somebody else, and what's right for somebody else isn't what's right for you. And the biggest thing that you need to not do is compare yourself to anybody else.
Yeah, and because I'm just nearly like, oh my god, yeah. On Instagram especially, it's perceived that some people are working 24 hours a day every day, and
Instagram is not real
one
life.
that's impossible to do, and I now know from inside sources that this is fake and they're doing it just for clout and to make it look like they're a hard worker, and it's sad. It's really sad that person has to do that to feel like they are gonna achieve and they are working more than other people, because they're not. Because I am working, not just working, but I'm working on myself. I'm working on my health, on my routine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
don't try and keep
Instagram.
don't try and keep up with somebody else, especially if what you're trying to keep up with is what you see on Instagram stories or Twitter or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's not healthy.
No, so it's not.
So yeah, the last two: don't have a negative routine and keep going.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why I was going to take over.
just taking over the video completely. So what we're going to do now is we're going to answer some questions. So Meg did a Q&A on her Instagram, so we're going to go through some answers now. So Meg's got the questions here, so Meg's going to answer them first and then I am. We're going to do these kind of rapid fire because I know that this video is already about 4 hours long, so we'll be quick with them, I promise.
Okay, question number 1. How did you decide to price yourself? I started off with about £20 an hour because to me that was really good because I was working £8 an hour in a job. So when I went freelance, I bumped up to £20 an hour. Then once my work started improving, I started to get more jobs, more recognition. I bumped it up to 50, and then so on and so forth, and then where I am today. Go.
So for me, how I price myself is, I was given some advice right at the beginning, which is if you take what a standard wage would be for an hour, and then times that by 4, because that takes into account the hour that you're actually working, an hour or 2 hours for editing, and then the other hour basically makes up for the fact that you've spent a lot of time learning how to take photos, and also the amount of money that you spend on gear. So that factors that in. So that's why I take a figure that I feel comfortable with for an hour, and then I times that by 4.
I like that. Who told you that?
I don't think you know him. It's just somebody from Leeds, but it's somebody that I learned quite a lot from.
What's your favourite thing about photography? Money. No, that was a joke. That was a joke. My favourite thing about photography is definitely the people I get to work with, places I get to go to, and I just love it.
Yeah.
I just love it. I breathe it, and I love creating and. That's
the thing for me.
Doing art is great.
The creativity that it allows me, the independence that it allows me.
Individuality.
And the people and the places again. So
great.
I've just done a shoot in New York. Like that answers everything really.
Really jealous. Okay, question number 3. If you had to stop using your current gear for another you've never used, what would you pick? I'd probably pick. I know I shoot with Canon, but I've not used it. I used it a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. It was a Nikon, I can't remember, I think it was a Z.
Or the Z6 or the Z5?
I think it was a 6. And it was so good. Oh my god, it was great. So if I was to change, I'd probably go to Nikon, as much as I don't want to say that.
Whereas I'm going to be a complete gear whore and say either Leica or Hasselblad, because they're just the best cameras that you can get. And I know that this goes completely against what I said about gear. Gear isn't important. I wouldn't know at all how to best use them. But if I'm going to be given the choice of any cameras to pick up, I'm going to pick up the cameras that are
you would anyway,
absolutely
wouldn't you?
thousands.
I would.
Yeah, a Hasselblad you're looking at for a Hasselblad and glass you're looking at 40 to 60.
So I was being realistic and Andrew
was being completely unrealistic. Nobody is ever going to allow me to just have a Hasselblad. So.
What challenges did you face in your first year of being full-time? To be fair, in my first year of being full-time, it was amazing. I'm not even going to lie, it was really good. I earn more money than I did when I was working at Costa, obviously. But yeah, I didn't really struggle. This is different for everybody. I networked a lot. I'm going to come on to this next question. I networked a lot, got myself out there. I'm a very confident person as it is, so I kind of like built relationships with clients and got recurring clients, so then I got this routine of getting jobs quite often.
Yeah, you put in the groundwork before that first year.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, I can't actually answer that question because, as regular viewers of this channel will know, I'm not actually full-time yet. So I work as a financial advisor 31 hours a week, and I do photography pretty much the remaining hours in that week. And the challenge for me is the fact that I've got a wedding to pay for before I can sort of take that step to go full-time. But I think the biggest challenge is allowing yourself to take that risk, which is something that I'm not in a position that I've been able to do yet, but you have done, and you took that risk. And I remember when you took that risk, and
that was scary.
You were, yeah, it is scary, 100%, and you were scared.
But we're both in very completely different positions. I still live at my parents' home,
which is where we are.
And
I've got
place.
A mortgage, a wedding, and
exactly.
again a dog that's not cheap.
Wasn't kids.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, so we're definitely both in different positions. Luckily, I got into it a little bit younger, so I've had the stability with my parents.
My only regret is that I didn't get into photography younger.
No regrets.
No
That's
regrets.
what I know.
But keep going.
Keep going. Have you ever had any bad experience with a model? Story time, please. Yes, I've had a bad experience with a model. He came. I'm not going to name drop as much as I want to. He came to the shoot high, and I shot in a place. He wanted me to shoot in a place of town where I've never shot before. This was when I was learning, so fair enough, I should have location scouted. But it wasn't a paid shoot. Come to think of it, it was a collab.
Oh, right.
So it wasn't that much of a big deal. And we was walking around, like location scouting on the day because it was a collab and we was chilling. And he turned around and said to me, "You should know where we're shooting because you're the photographer." I was like, one, you told me where you wanted to shoot. So you should know where you want to shoot. Yeah. 2, you come to this shoot high.
And 3, it's a collaboration.
It's a collaboration, so that was one bad experience I've had with a model.
I've been very fortunate. I've not had really sort of many bad experiences. The only bad experiences that I've had have been people cancelling last minute, people turning up late. That's about it really. Other than that, I've been really fortunate. I've never had. I can honestly say that I've never had anybody that's been really difficult to work with, and I've never had anybody that I've sort of got angry or upset with or anything.
Do you know the people that I've worked with who are the nicest people have always been the bigger people I've worked with, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's a myth from what I've experienced.
Yeah, definitely. The bigger people I've worked with, like Callum, is lovely. Yeah. Callum's a lovely guy.
Callum's my brother.
He's great. He was lovely, made me feel so welcome on that first shoot that I said before. Yeah, it's just been, and like Sean from Coronation Street. I love him. He's great.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, a lot of people think models are highly strung. The vast majority of them
no, not. They're really nice.
So we've got one more question.
What's the best way to learn? Just bought a camera. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Going back to what we've just said. YouTube. Magazines.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah.
Simple.
Andrew Mclean's YouTube channel. Megan Healey's Instagram stories.
Yes. So sorry for that one cutting off briefly. Somebody knocked at the door. But yeah, hope that you got something from those answers. Hope that you've got something out of this video. I know that there's been a lot of information, so if you've made it this far, thank you very much. Make sure you drop any comments in with any questions that you've got for either me or Megan down below, which is what other tips have we missed out? What do you think we could have added to it? Subscribe if you haven't already. It makes a huge difference when people like, comment and subscribe. And feel free to share this with any other beginner photographers that you know, anybody that you think might learn from this.
Or just new in the industry in general.
Absolutely. Make sure you check Megan out. All the links are down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.